start this. Okay, perfect. Thanks for reminding. All right, so any automation tool, right? Because and why am I saying any automation tool? Is being somebody who has used most of the tool that are out there in the market or out there as an open source. I can tell you what are the similarities, right? So any automation tool, you have to have the command, right? So what the command do, and then we have target, and I'll show you how to get the target, right? You don't have to use this tool to find the target. You can find the target on your own, and then you need some value. Okay, so let me explain what this command, target, and value means, right? And that's the first thing we need to clarify on. So command is basically, okay. All right, so pretty much let's talk about target first, and then we go back to command. Target is basically when you are automating something. So let me go into the website and let me go into, let's say, Mercury tours. Okay, I hate Yahoo. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is a demo website, right? Now, what do you think the target should be? So let's say if I want to write something in here, username, right? The target is pretty much not this. This is a label. Okay, this is a label. This is the target. This box is the target, right? So now if I inspect it, every browser has this tool. Okay, if you don't have it, you need to check. You need to enable the developer tools. But if you click on inspect and you click on this error and you go into this, right? This is the input. This is the element type here is input. I'm just calling, so everything here is an element, right? So you got this box as an element. These links are elements, right? This is an image, which is an element. This is again a link, which is an element, right? So anything on this page, we are pretty much gonna call them element for now. And if you look into it, input type text, and then name is username. So in this case, if you have to provide a target, which pretty much saying what is the address of the element you would like to do something with, right? Before you want to do anything. So since this is a text field, on a text field, what can we do as a human? Right here. What else can we do? What can we do as a human? Who wants to answer this?
And keys.
Name or numbers.
So
just for name.
So pretty much here we can write. So let's talk about like in a bigger picture, right? Instead of saying specifics. So we can write number one. What else can we do as a human? Like you don't have to be a machine. So let's say we type something. So what else can you do aside from writing?
Erase.
Did you say read?
Erase.
Erase. Okay, remove it, right? Okay, what else? Anyone else want to try?
Well, you said
Editing.
so it could be read to maybe.
So reading, right? Okay. Anything else?
Editing.
So remove and then you can write again, right? That is essentially the editing.
Okay.
So these three things you can do as a human to a text field. Now, if I tell you one thing is that Selenium WebDriver is designed to mimic human, okay? Because when you write automated tasks and it doesn't mimic human, meaning it doesn't really act like a human, then the problem is that you're creating this whole application for a human being, okay? So the issue will be is that you're going to be testing in the back on the code level, right? But then how it appears here, how it behaves here, you don't really care. And therefore the test doesn't become effective, right? Because this application is for the human. So Selenium WebDriver was designed to mimic humans' actions. Okay, so that way, and pretty much the way they wrote the code for Selenium WebDriver, the amount of effort, the amount of hard work they put in, is to actually mimic human behavior. Now, if they wanted to, they could have easily get away with by using JavaScript, which is in the back, like without even interacting here, we can just type the code and type the names or whatever and continue. You wouldn't even see anything here, right? So that is not the intention. When we test something, we test as close as possible to the end user. How many people know what end user means? Who's an end user?
User of this application.
Exactly. So whoever will use this application. So imagine you are supposed to use this application and somebody tested without Selenium WebDriver. They just simply went to the code and start just testing the code instead, right? And it doesn't really become effective test automation. Now, what kind of test that will be if I just test with looking into the code? If I'm looking into the code, what kind of test that is? What type of test, right? Who wants to answer that? That will be a white box testing, okay? And then also unit testing. So developers, when they write their code, they also test it. Nothing is pretty much every point is being tested, right? So developers, they will do their testing and they will do it with unit tests. This is a responsibility of a developer. This is a responsibility of ours. We will also look into the code and see what it should do and then test for that. So when you look at the code and you do it, it's different, right? When you don't look at the code, it's called black box testing, okay? Which is the opposite. And also called ad hoc testing, which means you're just not following anything. You're not looking into anything. You're just looking for bugs specifically, okay? All right, so target is pretty much the element, any element's location. And how do we locate, right? We locate by going into an element and find the value and the attribute. So in this case, name is equal to username. So what is name and what is username? Right here, username is the value, okay? And name is the attribute, okay? So if I take the whole thing and paste it here, name, and if I put this right here, that this is at this point, this became a selector, CSS selector. But guess what? Selenium IDE or Selenium WebDriver, they can use name. Name is known, okay? Name is a known attribute to who? To Selenium WebDriver, okay? So pretty much we can say, okay, we're gonna use name, but then the value of the name is this, right? And later I'll show you how that will turn out to be. But you know what? Let me put it here to remove some confusion here, okay? So with Selenium, we're gonna say driver, right? Driver is pretty much, we're saying browser, okay? We're saying browser, do something for me. Browser, find element for me, okay? So we're saying find element, and find element takes argument, okay? This is anytime you see something like this, that means in the middle and in between that, it may take arguments, right? Parameters. And therefore, this guy is a function, right? If you really think about it, this guy is a method or functions, right? If you think about it. So now it takes something by, and then this is a name. So we're going to say find it by name. Okay, so dot name, and then we're going to enter this value within. And that's it. Like, this is how you're going to be doing yourself. Like, this has name and this is the username. So now to find a target, there is many like it. It doesn't have to be name, right? It can be also followings. Okay, it could be ID. Oh my God, my computer is slow. Okay, Let me see what is slowing it down right real quick. Okay. Okay, let's see the CPU usage. Oh, wow. That is insane. Okay, Zoom, of course. Okay. Gotta beat this. What am I using this for? Nothing. Get this one. All right, guys, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to make this computer go a little bit faster. Okay, all right. So at least I was able to close a few things. Okay. Control center. Okay. Zoom is taking most here. Okay. All right, fine. Okay. So just like that, right? As you can see, we were able to use name. Okay, but keep in mind, what if the name wasn't there, right? What if this was an ID instead of name? Okay, so now instead of name, we're saying ID is equal to, right? ID is equal to username. So in this case, what can we do? Right, so we can use the following, which Selenium is known by. So ID we can use, right? All we have to do is replace this by name is replaced by ID, and we're good to go. Okay, so similarly, we have ID, we have class, right? Class name. And these are attribute, by the way. Okay, these are attribute, and it has a value. So just like that, anything as a value here on the HTML side, you're going to see in a double quote. Okay, if you don't see it in double quote, that is the attribute. Sometimes some attributes are customized, therefore Selenium doesn't know them, and we will know how to deal with those when we get to them. But we can do CSS selector, we can do XPath. Okay, and we can do, what else can we do? Okay, link text. Every link has a text. For example, this is a link. Do you agree? When you see this is blue, and when you go over it, the hand changes. Okay, the cursor, the arrow changes to hand. That is the link. Now, if this is a link, it will also have underlines sometimes. Like most of the links, we usually have underlines. So what is the text? What is the link of that text? Is basically sign on. If you just click in here, okay, and you can see this is the link text. Sign on is the same thing. So usually whatever you see here is the same for the link text. So we know name, ID, class name, CSS selector, XPath, link text, and DOM, which is pretty much this, right? We can use the hierarchy of the DOM, right? HTML DOM pretty much. so pretty much 7, is it 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 type of selectors you can use. Now CSS and XPath are very much going to be used a lot more than any other ones, is because CSS and XPath are pretty much expendable. They can be customized, and for elements that are really complex, elements that are not do not have static address, just like this with name, ID, then we will use XPath or CSS selector. So in other words, if you do not find link text, if you don't find the class name, if you don't find the name and ID, then you're gonna be your next option is to use XPath, okay, or CSS selector. They're essentially same. CSS selector has a clean view. It looks nicer. Okay. XPath looks a little bit more codey. You know, it looks complex, but it is more expandable, right? Meaning you can do a lot more with XPath, and a lot of people are more familiar with XPath than CSS selector. So my personal choice is CSS selector because it is faster, right? And it also looks cleaner. So that's why I use CSS selector. But you choose between this, right? Now, when you start working in a company, there may be one thing is that they say, okay, everybody's using XPath. Therefore, you just go with the convention. You do not just say, okay, I learned CSS selector is faster. That's what I'm going to use. No, it's just that your whole company is using XPath. And if you use CSS selector, you're pretty much not following the coding standard. Okay. It's not because you want to do fast. It's just that they want to keep everything uniformed. Okay. So that way it's easier for people to maintain. If you start using CSS selector, the code may look different and it may not follow the norm or the way that they are working for this long, right? So let's not change that when you join a company. But if you do see it there using CSS selector or they're using XPath both, then you are free to use any one of these at any time. Now value, and okay, so we talk about target, okay, command, okay, we'll talk about that. So value is pretty much when you, so I'm going to take this as an example from here, okay, and then I'm going to use this to show you what target and values and stuff, right? So now, and by the way, anything that you cannot do, so as a human being, you can read, write, and remove. That's only things you can do. Selenium can only do that things as well, and that's it. There is nothing more. Okay, so if you cannot do something as a human here, then Selenium cannot do it. Okay, anything that you cannot do yourself, then Selenium cannot do it. So when you test it, when you write your automated test, you're going to be coming here and you're going to be seeing, okay, you know what, can I type it? If you see this is disabled, this field is disabled and you cannot type it, that means Selenium cannot type it also. Okay, because it's not bypassing anything. It's not bypassing code or nothing. It's just mimicking you, right? So therefore, if you can't do it, then Selenium cannot do it either. All right, so now this is pretty much, okay, so value is basically when you want to type something here. Okay, this is the value. So we identified the location of our element, then we can say, okay, I want to type something. So you can use send keys, which is the command at this point. So this is the action command. Okay, send keys, and now send keys takes parameter. Okay, and it takes the value, which is this. Okay, so the value is, let's say you want to type your username. For me, let's say username is Jewel123, and that's it. And so now you got yourself a target, you got yourself a command, and you got yourself the value. Okay, so the value is pretty much anything that it's coming from you at this point. Okay, specifically for Selenium. And target, when you locate the element, you cannot just think that a line of code will work when you did not even intentionally target an element. It's not, writing code is not a mystery. Okay, either you know it or you don't know it. If you do know it, then pretty much you know that you have to provide a target. Okay, and then you can say, okay, after I found the target, I want to do something with the target, which is I want to write something on it. Okay, then you can write this. So now what if you want to remove something from the target, right? So you just basically can use clear, right? Okay, so that's it. Clear do not take anything as an argument, but that is a function, that is still a function. So it will pretty much clear, meaning remove the existing username from this, and it will clear up. Okay, and then if you want to read something, then you want to say get text. Okay, and it will return, the whole line of code will return a string type. Okay, so you want to store the text that is here. Okay, so if you want to store this specific text, right, you need to store it in a variable. How many people know what is a variable? So, okay, at least one of you answer. What is a variable? So nobody here
That
knows
holds
what it
data type.
exactly. That holds a value, not data type, but it holds a value. It could be any data type, right? It could be a data type that you're specifying. So string, let's say string is what?
Data type.
String is data
Data
type.
right? Okay, so string, if you string is a data type, I'm specifying. In Java, you have to provide a data type. And then I'm saying I'm gonna hold this value and I'm gonna just give it a name. Now in Java, when you write a variable name, you do camel casing. That's pretty much a convention. It's not a requirement. People, when they write a variable name, is coming from you, right? You decide what's the name should be. So this is how I will name it. Like, for example, this is a field with a label username. Then I will say username. Okay. Username field. Okay. And if you want to be more descriptive, then you just do text. Okay. So whatever I just did here, and this is an extra one. Okay. Whatever I just did here, right? Username field text. So you're basically getting it, right? So you can also like make it look more. So you can say get username text field text or whatever, username field text. So from there, you're getting this information. So you can be more descriptive, just like this. This is called camel casing. After the first character, every other word will have uppercase. Okay. See, every other word will have uppercase. Okay. The reason is that you want to make it easier for reading. Okay. So later when somebody, your coworker is looking at your code, they can read the variable. What is this variable supposed to contain? They will know, oh, wait a minute, this is going to get the name. So username fields text, right? It will get it from there, right? So we're using get text right there. Okay, so far clear, right? Before we jump right into writing some code. Okay, so today we're going to be writing everything from scratch. We don't have a tool like this. Okay, we don't do recording or nothing. So in this case, as you can see, command, you can do assertion, anything like assertion, click on it, right? So you can also simply click on that. Like, okay, so as a human being, if you can do something here, like for example, I can click here, then yes, of course you can click here too. Okay, so you can simply just do click. And just to make it easy for you guys, right? I'm saying as a human being, whatever you can do here, but take that with a grain of salt, because there will be some things, very few things different based on observations. But just take that with grain of salt. Is everything that I'm saying, you have to pretty much also learn from it. You can't just say, okay, this is exactly what it is. You know, there will be differences. There will be few discrepancies that you need to kind of figure things out, right? So for example, you can click as a human being. Yes, you can click, right? But do you really want to click in this? You don't really need to click on it, right? So that could be one example. Even though you can click on it, if you want to type something, you don't really need to click on it. All you got to do is use send keys. But sometime when you go to a website and this field is disabled until the user click on it, then you'll have to first click and then you'll do send keys. Okay, but sometime it has placeholder, meaning, for example, username already typed in, because why? Because maybe the browser saved it or something, right? Then you want to remove it first. Okay, so just keep in mind what you need to do. All right, so pretty much we learn what are the, and again, description is going to be a comment. So when we write our code, we always going to write some comments. So in Java, what is a single line comment? How do I start a single line comment?
//
Double slash, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say getting text from the username field. Okay, so getting existing text. Okay, so this is, why did I write this? Who wants to take a guess? So I wrote a line of code and then I wrote a comment. Do you think this will execute?
No.
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 This is for future. You come back to this code after 1 year, because why? Because let's say you wrote the code, it's been working so great, didn't really break ever, so you never had to look at the code. 1 year later, something broken, you're looking, you're reading, oh, this one's supposed to get existing text from the user field. Wait a minute, but it's doing clicking. Okay, so therefore, if I really read this, that means it's not doing the right thing. Okay, so then you're gonna say, wait, let me just use this and see if it works. Okay, so you debugged it and you're saying, okay, let me just use this, and if it works, and now it's working. Okay, so just because this comment that you wrote, it kind of saved you 1 hour or 2 hour before you kind of guess, you kind of do some guessing game. Instead of guessing game, you're able to kind of read and see exactly what this line should do, and you did it. Okay, so just for sake of time, is there anybody that don't understand what Selenium IDE and never wrote a single test and don't understand at all? Then I will go over and show you guys one test before moving into Selenium WebDriver today, right? So remember, Selenium.
Joel,
Yes.
I have a quick question. So for XPath, right? So I was testing out the automation for XPath.
Okay.
So when I'm inputting that into the code, in order to grab it, like when you right click into a box, let's say, right? And you're trying to get the Selenium, the IDE for it or the code, yeah. If you go to a copy XPath, okay. Can you copy straight from the XPath, or is there an alternative to that?
Let me show you what it looks like. I just copied the XPath and this is how it looks like. Okay.
Right.
So if you know how to, like, for example, if I was to build an XPath myself,
Right.
so this is how browser gave it to you. And browser was nice enough to give you a smaller XPath is because it already has an ID. And remember,
Right. So let's say the browser doesn't have that. What other options are there besides the
Okay.
ones that are given?
So
Or
look,
are you only supposed to use it? Sorry.
so browser no longer have this ID. Okay, I just removed it. Okay. And now what kind of ID it will give us? Let's see. It doesn't have anything. Okay, so right click, copy, give you XPath and see what it looks like now.
Right. Okay.
It is insane, right? So
Yeah.
so that's why, like, we don't rely on the browser to give us an XPath. We learn how to create ourselves. So if I
Right.
know what the double slash means, if I know what this means, and if I know what this means, I can actually create one. For example, double slash, I'm saying search everywhere. Okay, that
Okay.
is a relative path, not absolute. Single slash is n, is pretty much an absolute path. That means saying exact location of this should be here. But when you say double slash, you're saying, okay, go through the whole page. You see how I'm going through and it's checking, you see?
Mhm.
Okay, so you're saying I want to check the whole page. And then you're saying star mean that you're saying all the HTML tag. So form is a tag, TD is a tag, table is a tag. You're saying, I don't know what it is. I don't know what type of tag that is, right? I will just say everything by saying star.
No.
Look for everything. But if you know what that type of tag is, meaning username should be, username is what kind of tag that is? Should you tell me?
This way.
What
For
tag?
username, it should be what is it? The type, right? The text.
No, username is an input tag. Okay.
Okay.
So you can say double slash input. Okay, so you're saying I know exactly what type of items that I'm looking
Oh,
for.
okay.
Okay, and then you want to do at. At should be like, now if that had an ID class name, so if it has a name, for example, then you can say this and this and that, done, and you have a very specific XPath.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. So like let's say you click on another path, right? And it says something else like could you, for example, go to another pathway?
So
Just real
let's
quick.
do this, right? Because we're coming to
Okay.
it, right? This is a feature
Okay,
class,
that's fine.
but a lot of people here have zero clue what we're talking about. So we will come to that. We're gonna spend a day on XPath and CSS selector because we build ourselves. We do it on our own because the modern technology. Notice how this is a website, right? It doesn't have a lot of interaction. It doesn't look that good. if you go into like a modern technology, modern website, for example, let's say JetBlue, for example, right? JetBlue.com. And when you go to JetBlue, you see now everything is significantly interactable, nice, looks good, you know, and that is because it's really the technology that the developers are using. Technology comes with complexity, which is automation wise. We can't really simply automate without having to be more knowledgeable into how to grab that element. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're going to talk about that a bit more, but for now I want to get to the point for today's agenda, which is to write some automated test using Selenium Webdriver. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Now, the question was initially if anybody wants me to revisit Selenium IDE, because Selenium IDE, we're not going to cover it anymore, right? This is just for you to see. This is pretty much something that we're not going to go to depth, because normally Selenium IDE in a company, they don't even talk about it. They don't even want to use it because that has more cons than pro. Okay. Anybody wants to know why? Last time we did talk about some cons, but everybody here knows Selenium IDE, and therefore I don't have to talk about it, right?
Yeah, can you please repeat one more time?
Okay.
Yes, please. I
Okay.
appreciate.
Cons are pretty much Selenium IDE is a Firefox plugin, right? So if it's a Firefox plugin, can you do cross-browser testing? No, right? So you cannot test it in other browser. You can only test in Firefox. Now, recently I did notice Selenium IDE is available also on Chrome. So therefore you can only test in Chrome and Firefox, no other browsers. And many companies, they have Internet Explorer still, I don't know why, but still a pretty much a significant portion of users are still using it. So if you work for a bank or something, the entire employee base, okay, their 50,000 employees or whatever, they're using Internet Explorer because they still use those old systems. Okay, or maybe the application was pretty much supported through Internet Explorer in the beginning. So when you want to test that, you can't. Okay, so that's definitely a con. The other thing is that anytime you write a test, okay, anytime you write a test, it is written into, each test are written into a single file. Okay, each test goes into a single file. Okay, therefore we call them flat file. Okay, that means that there is no sharing items. So meaning, even if there are some common steps between all of the tests that you wrote, it doesn't really reuse them. It just creates new and new and new. Therefore, you have a lot of code. Okay, you have a lot of code, but you're doing the same thing. So reusability is not there. Okay, just understand that. That means maintainability is complex. So whenever you have to update your test, you have to go into each and every single test and you have to update. Imagine you have 3,000. Okay, number one. The second is execution. Okay, execution also takes a longer time because parallel execution is not there yet. And the other thing is that when you execute, you're pretty much doing it from your own machine. Okay, this has no integration between, I think recently they are having some support, but it doesn't have integration with cloud, right? Like Jenkins, running it through a different cloud where maybe you kick off, you run it, and then you just do your regular work, and then you come back and you want to see the result. Instead, you have to have your computer on and you have to go for a very long coffee break, okay, and come back and see if it passed or failed. So that's another one, execution. But then the most important one is that modern technology do not allow Selenium IDE to be compatible, meaning Selenium IDE looks for this stuff, right? Let me just go ahead and refresh. It looks for an element to have at least a name, at least a ID, or at least a class name. If it misses all three of them, then it uses the CSS selector. Now, if the ID, for example, the username, it contains some sort of number like this, and this number changes with every refresh. This is called dynamic element, okay, dynamic ID. So if that changes every second, then Selenium ID will not be able to run your test. So every time you write your test, it's going to be something that you cannot run. Now, how often this happens? Somebody guess. How often do you think right now happens with the modern technology that there is elements that has ID with it, and that ID changes every single time you refresh your browser? And that is a very common thing now. It happens very often. It happens almost with all the new technology web applications.
Excuse me, Julbai. Does the ID always change? Like who sets that up? Is it like the
It's the
developer?
developer. We do not have
Okay.
any control. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And you may think like, hey, why are you making my life hard? You may ask the developer question, and you can say, hey, listen, this ID keep changing. It's failing my test, and I'm not able to continue with writing my test. This is just insane. Why are you doing this? He's gonna say he has no control over this, right? Why? Because he's using a framework. He's using pretty much the convention. He's using functions that pretty much generates these elements. Therefore, what's inside of the function, he has no control over. He knows exactly, okay, I need to use this function to create this user name field. That's what he knows, right? And some of the framework is pretty much JavaScript framework, which is called React.js, Angular, and these are the two complex framework. That is, the other one is also React. So these frameworks is pretty much is to make developers' life easy to write the application, but it makes our life hard. Okay. Now you may say, okay, then how do we deal with this? Do we just ignore that? No, with Selenium WebDriver, we don't have to just ignore that. We can actually use regular expression, right? We're pretty much going to say, listen, for the name, I know that name field contains some numbers. You can tell your selector to say, okay, just match this and forget about these numbers. Whatever number it changes, doesn't matter. I don't care. We don't want to care about this number. So what you can say, look, I will, you can say the number could be 0 to 9, right? Any number between 0 to 9 range. So if you know exact range, if the developer says it's always going to be a 6-digit, then you can say 6-digit. Any number, so you're saying any number 0 to 9, 6-digit. If it's displays here, then it's fine. That's all you care about. It's fine. You don't want to care about, you got to put this in order to make it work, but you don't really want to care about what it is. As long as it's a 6-digit number, you're happy. Okay. Therefore, your test will pass. So first solution for that is regular expression. Regular expression is to basically ignore something. You can also select something if you want. But okay, we're going into more complexity, but the other option is to pretty much use alternatives. We can, if this guy has an ID, then we can say inside of this guy, there is an input, and that's the one we want to use. Okay. So if you're using, let's say, CSS selector, you can say input, and let's say ID is equal to something, right? And you can say, after that, you can basically say, I want to use the nth child. So you basically are saying like, I want to use something that is inside, right? And then child, and then you can say 1 for the first element. Okay. But there is a lot more things that we can do because of the flexibility, or the power is on our hand. Compare to your IDE, the power is not on your hand. Okay, the power is pretty much whatever you are provided, that is something that you're going to be using. Okay, whatever is in this list, that's something that you're going to be using. That's about it. Okay, you don't have too much power. That is one reason, but I would say spend more time with Selenium IDE, because the reason why I went over Selenium IDE is because you're going to say, I have used Selenium IDE and I felt like it was good for a small project, but it wasn't suitable for my project. So I didn't expand, I didn't go deeper, or I didn't really even use it too much. I use it in the very beginning to get ourselves going. If you're kicking off a project, you can first write some test cases for demo purposes, right? You can write some demo and then say, hey, here, look how test runs. See, all you got to do is execute, and they will say it's running, and they will see pretty much the value of automating. If you want to show somebody some value, okay, and you want to do it quick, okay. Otherwise, I would recommend that you use Selenium WebDriver. All right. With that said, I think that's enough cons, right? Why? But the pro here is that, okay, you don't have to write no code or nothing, but then you have to also think about, you have to tell your developers to at least include name, ID, or a class into every element he works in. That is the catch right here. Now, the modern Selenium IDE allows you to change that target yourself. So you have to still learn how to make those the way that we just talked about here, right? How to make the CSS selector or class name. You have to make it yourself. So if you're going to be writing those code anyway, then why bother using Selenium IDE? Think about that, right? The purpose is defeated if you're writing it yourself. Okay. All right, so I think that's enough for Selenium IDE. I would say if you feel like you need a bit more with Selenium IDE and you loved it, you understand it, and you want to go in deeper, then my recommendation is that you go into youtube.com, and somebody is going very much in depth, and I don't see a huge value for us to go in depth, so I'm not going to do that. But if you do Selenium IDE, and you can see the first one, 15 minutes, and this guy's going all in about Selenium IDE. Okay, so knowledge is power. Okay, and I'm going to say is, the more knowledge you get, the easier it will be for us to market you and get you a job. So if you have that 15 minutes, I would say learn a little bit more before jumping right into Selenium WebDriver and write this code. Okay, so now let's talk about Selenium WebDriver and Selenium WebDriver, and then we can automate this specific application we just talked about. Okay, so the first thing first, what is the prerequisite? What is the requirement that you need to have in your computer in order to have Selenium IDE installed and be able to run it? Okay, and it is quite simple. Okay, it's not a complex for you to say, okay, I need this thing, I need to install that and this. Okay, I'm going to show you everything that you need, and you should be fine. The first thing first for writing Java, and if you have been writing Java on your computer, then you're fine. Okay, that means you already have the prerequisite. Now, if you are writing Java, the first thing you need is JDK. Okay, you need the JDK because on your computer you're writing Java code, right? How does your computer understands that you're writing Java? When you have Java development kit, which is JDK, then when you write Java, then it will understand because you already downloaded the entire library or the code that Java offers. Okay, so if you click on Oracle, and it gives you a pretty easy way, right? Before it was pretty hard to find which version, but if you click on JDK and you're good to go, I think based on your computer, it gives you the right file. So when you're here and you click on JDK, it will download. Okay, and actually, okay, no, it'll give you the list, and then you have to choose what it is that you need. If you're a Mac user, this is it for you. Okay, Mac installer. If you're a Linux user, then you use one of these. Windows users are pretty much, is it 64, or that's what they have, I guess 64. So you just try this. If it doesn't work, then you remove it and try another Windows one, and I think this is the compressed archives. I would say this should work. Okay, this definitely should work. So now I already have that in my computer. Okay, so I am not going to install it again. So if I look at it, terminal, okay, and if I go into this, let me clear it out. Okay, clear, and Java version, And then it tells me that I got Java 14. And one of the interview questions is always like, what version of Java did you use? Yes, so if you're using 14, then just say 14. That's what you've been using. You use 8. 8 was the famous one. A lot of people use it. And so you kind of have to say you use 8 before and you're using 14, whatever version is kind of right now. Right now it's 16. I still have 14, so I'm going to keep it like this. So now if you install that, that's the first thing, and you click on you basically go to your terminal and do Java version, then you should be able to see what version. For Windows, you go to your command line and you also type very similar command. Okay, so I will say, and then you'll be able to see the version. Okay. All right. So now that I have JDK, that's the first thing. Okay, that's the first thing that you need. I'm going to erase all of these here. And so we got JDK. Okay, download. And I'll probably post this note somewhere for you guys. So I'm going to click on this link. Boom. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you write your code, you need a platform. You need to be able to write it somewhere. Okay, you need to, you can't just simply write it on Notepad. Can I write Java here? Yes, I can. Okay, yes, I can. And it will it execute? Yes, it will. If you write it with the proper format and all that, right? But then do you want to write Java here? That's my question, right? What it is that you can do, like what help can you take? When you write Java code here, it doesn't give you no recommendation. It doesn't tell you what is wrong and what is right. Okay, so therefore we need something called IDE. What is an IDE? This is not Selenium IDE. Okay, so it's different. What is IDE? Let me see if somebody knows what is IDE.
Intelligent.
IDE is not IntelliJ. What is IDE stands for? Anyone? Before I start writing? Okay, it's called integrated. Okay, I'm spelling wrong. Let's see if I can fix it. Grated, right? Okay, okay, integrated. Okay, development environment. Okay, so integrate development environment. What does that mean? It is pretty much another software that allows you to write your code, okay, but it will give you recommendation and say, hey, I noticed that you're making a mistake. Hey, I noticed that you're missing this, you're missing the curly brace. Hey, I noticed that you wrote a variable but it doesn't have a data type. Okay, so it will give you recommendation on the fly, and it allows you to write a clean code and be able to also tell you format your code nicely. So now if you have a choice between using this and using this notepad, for example, which one do you think you want to use? Notepad doesn't give you nothing.
IDE.
IDE, right? Because it's telling you on the fly right away. What is, if it doesn't tell you on the fly right away and you wrote one page of code and then you have to now figure out where are the mistakes that you made. Okay, so at least IDE is nice enough to do it. It's another software. It is a software. It has nothing to do with your code. Your code is your code, but it is the other software. Say, okay, here is my, you know, I guess Notepad is a software too, but it's a very low tech. It doesn't have capability of telling you what you're doing wrong or right. Okay, the same thing, we're gonna have to install a software just like this to go ahead and be able to write our code and understand where we're making the mistake. So now there are many IDE types out there. One is called VS Code, right? Visual Studio. Okay, so if anybody here know what I'm talking about, it's a Visual Studio. Let me just actually Google a few things for you guys to show you around. Okay, so this is Visual Studio, VS Code. Very nice. You can customize it and all that, right? So that's one. Is not the first one on the list. I'm gonna keep it down. Then the other one is for IntelliJ. IntelliJ is the other one, which is the Desire, which is the one that I would recommend if you are doing some Java. Okay. So that is number one, and that is something that we're going to use today. The other one is Eclipse. Okay, ECLIPS Eclipse, right? Okay, that's okay, Eclipse. So let's look at the Eclipse IDE also. And Eclipse is pretty much was born because of Java, right? Because that's what they want, right? And if you kind of do verses here, and looks like somebody's doing it already, side-by-side comparison. I can tell you this much, that we're gonna use Eclipse also, but then you'll see the difference, and you're gonna probably hate it. When we move from IntelliJ to Eclipse, you're gonna say, oh, we should go back to IntelliJ. But now Eclipse developers, they have also updated how the Eclipse used to be. So it's pretty much comparable now, right? It's not as good as IntelliJ, but it is pretty comparable. It is like getting there, okay? Now, IntelliJ is always ahead of everybody because of the technology they're using or because of how their product is, right? And I've been using IntelliJ for a very long time, or at least I've been using a product from IDEA from very long time, and there it has been solid, right? But nowadays, when people write code, they use IntelliJ more than Eclipse. But Eclipse is something that has been used for a very long time for Java developers. So when you join a company, there is a chance where they want you to use Eclipse because everybody is writing Eclipse. The only down part about Eclipse is that when you write your code, it is dependent on the Eclipse structure, or it is dependent on the IDE, meaning you have to use Eclipse in order to make it work. On the other hand, IntelliJ is pretty much going to write your code the way it should be. You can open it in Eclipse. You can actually open it in VS Code and still works. All right. So let's look at IntelliJ. We have to then download IntelliJ. That's the next thing. I don't know if I have it. I'm going to quickly look if I have it here. So I don't have it, which is good, right? So we're going to download IntelliJ. JDK, do you think you guys are fine with JDK? All you have to do is just install, and that's it. That's all you got to do. Go through the whole installation process and you're golden. And I know that you guys are doing Java classes with Santabai, so you guys should be able to already have JDK on your computer. So I'm going to assume that everybody's good, but if not, then raise your hand. This is, this is the time. So I'm gonna go for Eclipse, sorry, IntelliJ, and I will then click on download. So when you download, there is one for Ultimate and the other one is Community. For us, in order to automate, we don't really need the Ultimate, right? Unless we're doing some really complex stuff. We're gonna go with Community, and still works as good as Ultimate. I did use both, so I don't see like huge difference. So okay, so we're going to be using Maven, and it is available on here. We're going to be using a Git sometimes. It's still available. Debugger, yes. We're not going to use Docker, but everything else, like for example, JavaScript, you got database tools, Kubernetes. These are for developers, right? So we don't really need that. So actually, for testers, we are good with using the community free version. Okay, so I'm going to click on download, and then it will install it on my machine. Okay, once the installation is done, then we move on to the next one. In the meantime, is downloading. Anybody with any questions so far how we got here? Because you're about to step into more complexity. After today, you're going to feel like things are getting more and more intense. Okay, so and every day we meet here, at least my class, we're going to be writing automated tests. Okay, and the homework will be also you write the automated tests yourself. And in the stand-up, we're going to talk about how many tests we wrote for that week, okay, using Selenium Webdriver. Okay, so if you have any question, you should speak. You got IntelliJ IDEA CE Community Edition. We're going to go ahead and place it right into your application. That's how Mac works. And once that is done, okay, so let's let it finish. And it's done. And now I can go ahead and open. I can pretty much eject this. I don't really need it anymore. We installed it already and it's ejected. Now I'm going to click in search. I'm going to say IntelliJ and it will show up. All right. So now for today's class, we're going to write a simple framework. Okay. Just a very simple framework. It has nothing crazy. Okay. What is framework? And we will talk about that. Simple automation framework And we're going to use the following. We're going to use Selenium. This is the first ingredient. Okay. We're going to use Selenium WebDriver as the first thing. Then we're going to use Maven. Okay. And then we're going to use JUnit. Okay. And we're going to be using three ingredient here, right? So if we are building a framework using all these three, what is a framework? Anybody wants to try that? Who needs a 5 minutes break? And then I don't want people to like, this is a pretty much crucial moment. I want people to pay attention. Anybody needs a coffee break? Yes, okay. So let's do one thing. It's 1:23. I will pretty much be here, but we will be back by 1:26, right? 3 minutes, you know, I think pretty good time to heat up some coffee. But if you need a little bit more time, you know, we're gonna be still here. We're gonna probably review this again. But this is the objective. We want to build this with our code, and then we want to write a very simple test. We want to go into this website and we want to be able to register for a new user. Okay, that's what we want to do. That is all for today. And once I am done, I'm going to ask you guys to do pretty much another website, not this website, but I'm going to ask you to do something else for your entire week. All right. So yeah, I'll see you at 1:26, 1:27. It's okay. Don't worry. A little time is a little bit flexible. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording for now and resume. Okay, we're resuming on recording. All right. So let's build this framework. But before building the framework, you need to know what it is that you're using this framework for. First of all, framework is when you group multiple things together and their common goal. There is a common goal for it, right? It does something after grouping multiple things. For example, a car simply having the tires doesn't run the whole car. Okay, the tire is part of it, but it's completely different. Yes, it is completely different. Having the engine doesn't really run the entire car. You need the tire, you need the chassis, you need pretty much the whole car to be built out. So everything that was combined and used, you know, in the car to make the car functional, that was a framework that they used. They said, okay, first install the bottom, second install the you know, let's say install the body, and then third install the engine, something like that, right? They have followed some steps to create that specific framework, so that way factory workers, they can just follow that specific convention. Same thing, when we write a framework, we're basically combining multiple items based on our need. Okay, so for today, we're building a very small framework. The first thing for Selenium WebDriver, what does it do? It controls the browser, right? It tells browser what to do. So we're doing browser manipulation using Selenium WebDriver, right? And then Maven is to say, okay, these three items, I want to be able to load, download, whatever, right? You want to automatically download all three items. You need Selenium WebDriver, Maven, JUnit, and other things. So Maven will be keeping track of Selenium WebDriver, JUnit, and it itself, and say, okay, these are the three items we need to have it in the project in order to make the project running. So in order to install stuff, so Maven is a dependency manager. So for this framework, Selenium WebDriver, Maven, and JUnit is a dependency. So the dependency manager, meaning like it will automatically download for you things. It will automatically download, you know, WebDriver, Maven itself, JUnit, whatever you need, right? If you can combine other things, right? TestNG, and it will download that for you too. And so, and also Maven also keep tracks of the version, okay? Version of each of these items. These are different libraries, right? These are Java libraries, or these are Java jar files. Now these pretty much has different version, and Maven will say, you can tell Maven, I want only 5.1, I want only 3.1, and Maven will make sure that every time it downloads something, it will download only that version that you want. Okay, JUnit we're going to be using today for assertion. What is assertion? Anybody know? We talked about assertion, why that is such an important thing, right? Whenever you write a test automation or manual testing, you need to have expectation, what you're expecting expected result. So JUnit will make our life easy to make those assertions. Instead of writing code from scratch, okay, we're going to be using JUnit to help us with other assertion. But I'll show you the difference between writing code from scratch and JUnit itself. All right, so now that we have Selenium IDE, you got to confirm read, right? This is just a community term. You cannot use this to pretty much do something harmful to the country or anybody, right? This is just agreement. So got it right there. Okay. And all right. And it's going to open up. Okay. So it opened up my last. So it remember my last automated test that I wrote, and it opened up that one. And I'm going to go ahead and like pretty much not care about that. Just go ahead and put it to the side, or maybe like delete the whole thing. So we can just do it from scratch. I'm just pretty much removing this. So in this case, I'm gonna create, so in Selenium ID, IntelliJ, sorry, in IntelliJ, you click on File, New Project, okay? We're not gonna use no existing project or nothing. We want to create a brand new one. So click on that. And then remember what kind of project that is. Which one do you think we will select right now out of this? It's telling me what kind of project that is, right? So which one do you think we will select based on reading? Anybody guessing? I'm just asking you to guess. Nothing, you know, you could be wrong, not a problem.
Java.
Okay, so we're not going to use Java because this is going to be a Maven project. Because what we want to do is that we want to, remember we talked about Maven right here, that we're going to be using Maven for dependency manager. So we selected Maven, and now we're going to click next, and we got to give our Maven test a name. So for example, we did say that we want to create a simple automation framework. So how does that sound? We'll just go ahead and give that as a name. You cannot have spaces, so I'm going to remove that, and the location will be my home directory, and it will be this name. So I can change that. Sorry guys, maybe you want to mute because we can hear you. All right, so we can actually change location right now. It probably going in downloads, right? So as you can see, the location is pretty much going into the downloads. You can put it wherever you want. This is for you to decide. So I'm gonna leave it mine where it is. I don't care. And I'm gonna click on finish, and it's gonna say new window. I don't want to use this because it already have a project. A new window, brand new. So I'm gonna close this. We don't really need it. Right off the bat, when you use Maven, as you can see, okay, I hope this doesn't really create a problem, but anyway, so right off the bat, we can see that few things. One thing is that you're seeing pom.xml, and it's right here. And any Maven project, how do you know it's a Maven project? Is by looking at the pom. If the project has, if the Java project has M right here with pom.xml in it, that is a Maven project. You can even go into it and can see that the Maven directories where it's loading from. I did notice some failure here, and I hope this is not because of my computer issues. Okay, so I hope this doesn't create an issue for us today. Otherwise, we'll have to pretty much do another way. Okay, so for now, let's leave it as this. So the first thing first, we open up Maven structure. We got two folders. Okay, you got test, and we got the resource and test Java. Okay, this is where we're gonna keep our objects. This is where we're gonna write our code that will be function, that will be supporting our test, and this is where we're gonna be writing our actual test. For today's, we are going to just simply write a test. Okay, so we're not gonna go and do all that complexity stuff right now. We're not going to follow page object pattern. For now, we're just going to write a single test. So we're just going to click. We can do a Java class. We can do a package. So go ahead and write a Java class. I'm going to say first test. When you write a Java class, your name should be uppercase. The first one should be uppercase. Okay, so we're going to do first class, and we go ahead and wrote our first test. Okay, and notice the class, we have the class and everything, but in Java, what do we need? What do we need for our code to execute?
Main method.
Right,
Yes.
main method.
Yeah.
So who can tell me what main method is in Java?
Public static void main.
Right. So let's see. Public static void main, and then it takes some arguments, right? Which is string, and then we do
RQ.
array, args. Okay, so if the code is not within these two braces, it doesn't run. Notice how this IDE that we talked about earlier is allowing you to run it right from here. Notice how it's cleanly telling you if you make a mistake, for example, I am writing a comment here, for example, right? And say I want to create a let's say driver. Driver is the browser basically, right? That okay, create a driver is read automatically. What's happening? You can say, look, it says it doesn't know what it is, what driver means or nothing, right? Because this is not a comment. So now it's saying, okay, you're good, right? So only, okay, there's a good thing and bad thing. The bad thing is that it immediately gives you an error. So even if you're not finished, it thinks that you made a mistake, but once you finish, then the error should go away. Okay, so now that we have this simple framework that we just created, it's not completed yet. So let's say we want to create a browser or open a browser from here. The problem is that we don't have Selenium Webdriver to do it, right? Selenium Webdriver is the only library that allows you to control the browser to open or do whatever, right? Nowhere in this application we have Selenium Webdriver, so we have to add them. In a Maven project, when you add Selenium WebDriver, you have to add it to your POM file, okay? In your POM file, you have to say something like dependencies, and then you put dependency under it. But where do you get the XML? Where do you get the version of Selenium? So this is how you're gonna be getting it, right? You're gonna go online. You're gonna go into Google and you're gonna write Maven repository, where we can find Selenium. So Maven repository pretty much contains all the library that you may use, right? There is a chance you're going to be using some of these libraries at some point. So now you're going to say, right now, what do you need? Selenium, right? So we're going to type Selenium, go ahead and search. Now, Selenium WebDriver is pretty much Selenium Java, okay? Don't get confused. So the names and everything, the way it is, I'm going to go with this. And also you can look at the usage. Okay, this is only two usage. There is gotta be a lot of people using this, right? So you click on this and now you see the version of Selenium. In a workplace, we never get alpha and beta version. Okay, we don't use those because those are not tested yet. Okay, these are 4.0 Selenium still being tested. Okay, so at some point they are going to say, okay, 4.0 looks good and everybody can use it. You can still use the beta version, but it may come with problems that you can report. You can actually find bugs and report it to the Selenium team and they will take care of it. But we don't have time for all that. We want to learn and we want to go out there and get a job. So now we're going to use the stable version, which is 3. The most recent stable version is 3.141.59. So click on that. When you click on that, you have so many options. Okay, which one do we need from here? I don't know. Which one do you think we need? Tell me.
Maven.
Maven, right? So we get the Maven. Okay, and we're going to paste it over there, copy, and we're getting the actual version, the exact version that we need. I'm going to paste it here and it's going to be red. And now you tell me why. Okay, is because Maven dependency, you may have more than one dependency, correct? We also need JUnit. Okay, so you will probably, okay, so let's get JUnit and then we will then talk about all that stuff. JUnit, okay, this is the one, and JUnit, this one just passed the 4.13, but I'll just get this previous version to be safe, so it doesn't give us some problems. Maven also, And then go ahead and paste it down here. Oh, first test, maybe, there we go. Paste it down here, and still red is because these two are the same type. Okay, dependency are the same type, but we need to put it, wrap it onto, we need to wrap it onto a parent tag. Okay, and we're gonna say dependencies, CIES. Okay, it's dependencies, and that's it. This is the wrap. This is the beginning. This is the beginning, and this is the ending. So I'm gonna take the ending and I'm gonna put it under the last dependency, and now it is all golden. Okay. All right. So notice dependencies, which is more than one. Okay. And dependency is one of the dependencies. Okay. So it has to be this way. Now we can add more and more and more, but this framework is complete just now. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to then go ahead and go to Maven, and we can do reload, and we can then pretty much build. Okay, so we're going to do build. When we do the build, what will it do? Okay, so you see always download, pre-build, started indexing. So always download. So what it's saying is that it wants to download these two libraries. So we're going to go ahead and click on build manually, and looks like it's synced up. I think everything is good to go. So now the first thing first I want to do, I want to test to see if my Java working. Okay, I want to see if the Java is not upset with me. Okay, so I'm gonna, how do I know that? How do I do this? I can do system. Look, it's giving me preference, right? That is one of the another beauty of using using IDE, system out dot println, and then here I'm gonna say hello world just to start with, to see if my Java is working correctly. Okay, and done. I'm gonna go ahead and run this right here, run it. See how it's doing all this stuff, parsing it, and it did print. Okay, so now we have hello world working, right? That means Java is not upset. Okay, so we'll leave it to the side. Next thing we want to test for our Selenium. Okay, so the way we want to test for our Selenium is that we can just simply write Webdriver and see if it gives me as an option. Look, Webdriver, that means Selenium was downloaded automatically through our friend Maven, right? Because we asked Selenium to do that. Okay, so Webdriver, we need to create a browser. So I'm going to say browser at this point is equal to new Webdriver, right? Oh goodness. Okay, 1 second. I call the whole thing Chrome driver, right? Because that's what we want. We want Chrome driver. And that's it. So we know Selenium WebDriver is still good here. So I'm going to just say here, I'm just going to say like pretty much create instance of the Chrome driver, because we want to be able to use Chrome driver for now. We can also use Firefox later, but this is the first thing. And I'm going to continue to write this comment so you guys can understand. In this case, if I run it and if it passes, I'll have to explain something else, because not for everybody is not going to pass. Okay, so I'm going to have to explain why that is not going to pass for you. For me, it's going to pass is because I did some things before to make it work. Thank God it didn't pass, because this is exact error message that you will receive. Now, one thing that I want everybody to understand: when you're a coder, when you're a developer, right? When you write test automation, who you are? You are a test automation developer. Okay, so you can actually, if somebody asks you, what do you do? Oh, I'm a test automation developer. You're 100% accurate. Because why? You're writing code. Okay, you're building systems, you're building softwares for testing a software. It doesn't make you a less of a coder. Now, yes, you may have less knowledge, is because you're learning from here, but over time you'll gain that knowledge where you can actually compare yourself with a developer themselves. Now, one of the friend of developer, meaning who's our best friend here, is that the error messages, like when things fails and it gives you exceptions. This is the exception. Exception is our friend. Now, when you are a tester, and this is something I said to somebody very recent who got a job, and he worked from my place on his first day. And I told him one thing, is that as a tester, who you are, what is your personality, right? You should be detailed, oriented person, right? You should not just you should not be like, okay, oh my God, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? No, 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 no. I want you to read this message and understand what it is that it needs. So that way we can do the next thing and make it pass. To tell you guys a story, what he did, right? What he did is that on his first day of work, they're giving him things to do, right? Okay, download this, download that, set up this, set up that. These are like very minor things. He was asked to change password of his company email, okay? And the issue was that the password cannot be changed if you just create it today. It has to be the next day. It says 1 day after. And it's giving us that error message. It's fine. He's not reading that error message. He's just directly, I can't, like, it's not working for me. What is not working for you? You need to be able to give more details to those people. So they said, okay, give me a screenshot. He gave an screenshot. Then they said, okay, yeah, he could have avoided the whole entire conversation, right? And top of that, it's nothing bad, but if he was detailed enough, he would know exactly what needs to be done. That's one thing. The other thing is that there was an email going around. So he just logged in. He had access to his email. Emails going around for the entire group. It's not targeting him. It's just saying, hey team, we're going to be doing this. And he's panicking about it. Oh, email. I said, wait. Give me a second. Okay, give me a second. And obviously when you get a job and working next to me or something, I'm working and I want to make most of my time and your time. So I was like, okay, hold on to that thought. If you have more questions, gather them, and then we'll basically answer all at the same time. So I'm looking at the email. I'm like, okay, first thing first, did you read the email? And he's like kind of, confused, like, oh yeah, I did. I'm like, okay, no, you didn't. I want you to read the whole thing, and then you tell me if you have to respond to that. If you have to specifically respond to this. I made him read the whole email, and then he comes back, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I needed to read this, right? So there is, like, our only job is to be detail oriented and be able to find mistakes. Imagine you making that mistake. You're not detail oriented. You jump right onto that gun, okay? You jump right on to that conclusion. You jump right on. This is if you are that person and you have that behavior, it's okay for now here, but I want you to get used to be more and more detailed, because in this career, that's all we're going to be doing. Patience. We don't submit our work on the first day when we finish. We test it and test it and test it. We see how it works. We see how it's going to be going. We see who's going to criticize. We see, if we can find any other way to improve, and then only then we submit. We don't do half cooked stuff. We do full cooked. We well done everything when we send. And that is the personality of a QA person. All right, with that said, I just felt like you guys needed a little bit of story in between. This is too much thing going on with code. All right, now it says the path to the driver. Executable must be set to webdriver driver. Now, if I take this, let's say I'm a first guy, I don't understand. If I take this and Google it, how many people think it will give me an answer? Okay, if I take this and the answer is there, look, boom. You're not the first one facing this error message, okay? And when you click on the first one, it gave you an answer right here. And I'm not going to show you that answer right now, okay? Because we're going to do it ourselves. So what it is that it's saying is that, wait a minute, you're saying, so what Selenium 2 is telling you right now is that, hey, you're saying you want to use Chrome driver, but where is the Chrome driver? Where is your Chrome driver? I want to know so I can use it. You're asking it to use Chrome driver, but we don't know that. So in this case, we're gonna now tell Selenium exactly where the Chrome driver is. Okay. So we're gonna set system dot set property. Okay, set property takes two parameters. One is the key and the other one is value. And this is gonna be our key. This is our key. I'm gonna copy that. And key does not need, okay, double quote key, okay. And then we're gonna put the path here, okay. The path will then, the path is basically path to the Chrome driver. But notice we don't even have a Chrome driver here. So let's download a Chrome driver. First of all, when you download a Chrome driver, you go into your Chrome first, okay. You need to align the version. You wanna find out what version of Chrome you have. I got version 9.1, Okay, so I'm gonna then go to Google, download Chrome driver. Okay, and Google is nice enough to create a page for us where we can actually go and download a specific version of Chrome driver. Chrome driver is not same as Chrome browser. Just know that. Okay. Now 9.1 we saw before, right? That's what we need. So that's exactly what we're gonna get. I'm gonna download that. In this case, you got Windows, we got Mac. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the Mac. I will then open my Chrome driver and this will be executable. This is the executable file. Okay, Unis executable file. And if this is executable, then that's exactly what we needed, right? It needed the executable driver. Okay, we don't need to zip it. We don't need to do nothing. We have to definitely unzip it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it somewhere in our project so it's easier to deal with. I'm going to create a new folder for this, okay, directory, and I'm going to say drivers. I'm going to give it a name, drivers, and now we have a driver folder, and that is exactly where I'm going to keep my Chrome driver. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it there, and now it's telling me, okay, to go ahead and do this. Boom. Oh, did it not put it inside? Okay, hold on, I'm gonna have to move this. Okay, so it wants to go refactor, boom. So then it's inside. Okay, if it's inside, now we need to do the path. Okay, so I'm gonna right click this and I'm gonna say copy path. Okay, you got absolute path, the whole thing, both will work for you. But if you can do the relative, the root path, then it's better because this way we don't have to write the whole long path. And the other thing is that this will work for even if you share your project to somebody else, it will work for them too. They don't have to change the path. Now here's the deal for Windows users. It will be something like this, driver / exe, because you are using Windows and it is executable. Executable extension is exe, and you need that for Windows people. But for Mac, we don't need the exe extension at the end. Okay, so that's why we don't have it. All right, and now that we have this, if I run it and it works, then we know that our driver was configured. Okay, so like simply run it right here and it should open up. The first time it will ask you for permission. You see, like this, it says Chrome driver. So Mac users, you're gonna face this issue where it says Chrome driver cannot be opened because the developer cannot be verified. Okay, even though Google built this. Can you believe this? All right, so we're gonna go to your security. Okay, security right here, and we're gonna go to general, and we're gonna then pretty much cancel this for now, and we're going to run it one more time. Before we run it, as you can see, it says allow, right? Allow anyway. Chrome driver was blocked, so we're going to say allow. Okay, that's the first time we do this. Then we're going to go ahead and run it one more time, and this time is going to say again the same thing, but we're going to go to our security and things, and Mac. Okay, so it says, do you want to? Okay, so this is just a warning. Mac OS cannot verify developer for Chrome driver. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes, I am giving you guys guarantee. This is not a virus, so go ahead and click on open. Okay, so then you clicked on open. Now you're running. So you're definitely gonna face this couple times until you're good to go. The first time it's always gonna be like that. Because you're using Mac, the newer version of Mac comes with a lot of security. So now, as you can see, we have a browser that is open. So I'm going to show you right now. The next time you're not going to see this issue. Let's go ahead and run it. Go ahead and run it, and that's it. It opens up the browser. It cannot go anywhere because, yes, you didn't ask it to. So what if I tell it to do something for me right now? What if I say, okay, go to, okay, so this is where we created the instance of the driver, and I'm going to say, go to URL something, right? Where do you want us to go? Like, let's say we want to go to Maven repository at this point. Okay, we want to go to Maven repository, so go ahead and URL Maven repository, for example. Okay, so I'm gonna say, and by the way, the language that Webdriver understands, we have to speak the same language. Okay, so now obviously you're gonna be typing in Java and stuff. So far, whatever we did, not a whole lot of Java, right? We're using still Selenium methods. So remember, we have a variable named browser. We're gonna say browser. Okay, browser, get me something. Get. Okay, Get method takes a string. Okay, get is for going to a specific browser, but it has no return. Get do not have a return because what this is using, get is using void. Remember public void, so that because it doesn't have a return. So the same thing, get method uses a return, uses void, so therefore it doesn't give you a return. It does something for you, right? Nice enough to do something for you. So we're going to do this now. How many people can create a variable? We want to create a string variable. Who wants to tell me this? I want somebody to tell me how to create a string variable.
First data type is string.
Okay. Oh, 1 second, my computer is getting slow. Okay. String,
Then the variable name,
variable name, let's say I put URL here, and then
Website URL.
yeah, but okay. Do I need anything? Just simply paste this, right? Or
Apostrophe.
you need double quote, right? No, you don't need this. And then lastly, you need this, right? To end. This is to symbolize end of line, right? So I just successfully created a variable name URL. If I want to use this inside of get, because it needs a string, do you think I can do that?
Yes.
Yeah, because the URL, the value is actually a string. So I'm going to do URL and that's it. Now it's no longer upset. If I go ahead and run this, do you think it will open that specific thing that we asked for? There we go. It went to Maven repository. Okay. Then now next thing you notice like how it building up different browser because each one of them is separate driver is opening, right? So we can say, you know what, we want to close after it's get there. Okay. We can say close that driver. Sorry, close that browser. So now if you run it, it will not be 4, it'll be 3 still because these 2 or 3 were created ahead of time. And now boom, it's gone. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this so I don't have so many things going on. Okay. Now, let's say in Maven repository, we want to look for Selenium. Okay, we want to type here. We want to look for Selenium Webdriver and click search. And if it shows this, then our test passes. Everybody's agreeing to this test case. This is the test case, right? We go into Maven repository, we look for Selenium, click on search. If we can see this, then we're passed. We basically go and we say our test passes. Okay. So as an automation guy, you have to first we already have to make a decision, right? Otherwise, when things goes hard, you're gonna skip things, right? So you already have we just made a decision. What is the test case should be? This is our test case. We went there. We want to search for it. So now, as an automation person, when you visit a page for the first time, you want to make sure that you visited the right page. You want to put an assertion. So check if you're in the right page. Before we write anything in there, we want to check if we're in the right page. Otherwise, we could be like, it could be if the page takes some time to load, then it will not find this specific thing because it wasn't there yet. So first thing first, we want to check. We can do check many ways, but let's see if we go into the head. Okay, so I'm going to go inside of the head and it has a title. So we're going to look for the title. Okay, so copy the title first. And this is our expected title. So I'm going to put, if I want to put the expected title and I want to make that as a string variable, expected title is equal to this. And I forgot something here. What it is, guys? Somebody quickly tell me. Number 15, right? This, we have to end it. And notice, like when I'm gonna type some Java code here, I'm always gonna ask you guys questions, right? Because, you know, this is one of the fun way to kind of get some interaction from you guys, but also you'll remember that because you're able to answer it, right? So yeah, sometimes the question will be very basic and you're gonna say, wait, how come he's asking such a basic question? Is because not everybody here at that level yet. Okay. All right, so then we got our self-expected title. This is what we're expecting. Then how can we put assertion? How can we say, okay, we want to look for that thing, right? So first of all, we want to tell the browser in this case to say, okay, what is the actual title? Because remember, we want to compare actual versus expected, right? So then we're going to say string actual title is equal to Actual title, we cannot write it out. We have to ask the browser to get it for us. Okay, so we're going to say browser.get title. Okay, get title is a method from Selenium that allows you to grab the title after visiting. Okay, now we can do the compare. Now we can say this should be equal to this, right? So now we can say assert. Remember assert that we talked about, JUnit assertion. So assert, and so we can do some assertion. So I'm going to call JUnit the one that we just have. So JUnit assertion, and I'm going to assert equal. So you see arrow and all that. We don't need the array. We want assert equal. Okay. I'll take the first one with a string. Okay. String. Okay. Let's see. String message assert equals expected. There you go. Expected and actual. Okay. So now the first one is expected, correct? So all I have to do is paste this, and the second parameter is actual. Okay, that's it. Now if I run it and it passes, obviously when it passes, it's gonna always end with 0 code. Okay, that's a Unix code, exit code that kind of tells you nothing went wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and run this. We're just verifying we're on the right page before we do anything. Okay, and this time it failed. Okay, this time it failed. So let's see why this has failed. Okay, so Chrome driver was successful. Expected result, Maven. Okay, let's see. Expected result was Maven repository Selenium. Okay, this is what we were looking for, but found. Look, but there was Maven repository, the first 2 word matches, and it went search, browse, explore. Okay, so we weren't on the right page to grab that expected result, because remember, we already searched it and then we grab the expected result. So if we look at it now, it'll be different. Okay, because before we already searched it, so therefore we got a different one. You see, this is the expected title. Okay, so we want to change that because before we grabbed it from another page. Anybody confused here? Because I know I don't want to leave you guys confused. The reason I had to change the expected result is because before, when we grabbed that, we already did some searching and stuff, and then the title was different. Okay, versus now the title, which is when you first land on the page, the title is this. Okay, so if I'm running that again, okay, and this time exit code is 0, that means test pass, but also you can look it into your log. You can also write something like because line number 20 will not execute if there is a failure any of the line before it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to system.out.println, and I will say test passed. All right. Okay, and now that's, if we run it, it will tell you, instead of looking at the 0, you can say, wait, oh, it's telling me the test pass. As you can see, test pass. But also you can say, you can also put it right here, and you can say, because if line number 18 has a problem, line number 19 will not run, right? So you can assume that line number 18 passes. So you can say title, page title was found, passed, right? And here you can put something like plus, you can get actual title, right? That's it, done. And that's it. And now you can run it. It kind of like the more creative you are, probably gonna be, you will be able to write better and better and better code, cleaner code. Okay, so you can say page title was found, passed, and then this is the title. Okay. Now that we just made sure that we're in the right page, we still have to, we didn't forget about our test case. Okay, okay, so checking for the right title, the whole code is for checking for the right title. Okay, so these two line 20, these are different. So now the next thing is we want to type something on the search, and okay, so we're going to say search for Selenium Webdriver. So when we want to search for something, we talked about target. We talked about we need to know the address of this, right? Who can tell me how do I find the address of this? Anybody remember in the beginning, we talked about this. Okay, so
You would right click.
so if I just click in here, right, or I can do right click and inspect, it will take me to a specific element, right? Now we can see that there is a placeholder. It's called search for group, artifacts, and category. We don't really want to use this. We can't use it. But remember, we talked about ID, name, class. ID should be your first priority to look into, right? So you can see that ID, we have an ID here, and it's called query. But then anytime you use any sort of ID or class or something, we want to make sure that this is the one of its type. It doesn't have more. So how do I basically test that ID is only one? And this specific query is belong to only one element, not two, because otherwise Selenium will fail. So if it's an ID, you put front of it, you put a hashtag, and boom. As you can see, it's selecting the right element and it's telling you one of one. Therefore, it is the only one. Okay, so then we take this query and we copy this, right? This is the ID. And now we're going to tell our Selenium to go into that. So we're going to say driver. So sorry, browser. So browser dot find elements. We got two, right? Elements with S. So be careful. This is an array data types, and this is going to be an web element data type. Okay, so web element, because we're dealing with a single element, so we're going to be using web element. Find web element. Okay, so you see it's already giving suggestions. Isn't that nice about IntelliJ? So now it says by, as soon as you type by, you click on, you basically put a dot, and now it's giving you so many other choices, right? So we want to, because we found that ID was unique, so we're going to go with ID, and ID takes a parameter, and that is the value of the ID. Okay, so we got it from the browser. I didn't invent that, right? We just found it from the browser. Okay, then we want to do is we want to do send keys. Okay, we want to do send keys, and we want to basically say we want to type for Selenium. Okay, Selenium Webdriver. Driver, but I'm gonna make it look nicer, right? So I'm gonna say I'm gonna make a string. Search QUERY, search query is equal to Selenium WebDriver, and then I want the search query to be here. Something is red. Why is it this red? Who can solve this issue here?
Data type needs to be there.
Exactly. So if this is a string, you put string, and that's it. No longer has an issue. Now I'm going to reuse this a specific line of code. Like I'm going to reuse. So this is the rule, right? You're a developer. If there's something you can reuse, you want to reuse. Okay. So line number 24, up to this point, I can reuse before the send keys. So if I can reuse that, I'm going to put it into a variable, and the variable type is web element. Okay. This is a web element type. We're going to say web element. We're going to give it a name. We're going to say search field. FIELD, right? If I correct, okay, that's good. And that is this, and boom, right? This is your search field. So now we created this web element. We're going to paste it right there. And it's good. Now I'm going to use this again, because what we want to do next is that after entering this information, we want to click enter from our keyboard. Okay. Oh, what just happened? Maven. Okay. So we got a bug, guys. Who wants to? So if you don't type anything and you enter, it goes into like a very, okay, this may be not a bug, this may be like a design. They think that you're a robot, okay? Because many people probably abuse this website by trying to automate just like us, right? For learning purposes, of course, not to. Okay, so now if I do Selenium and I do enter from keyboard, it doesn't work, okay? That's the thing. Enter from keyboard, it doesn't work. So we cannot do enter for keyboard. We have to click on search after typing Maven. Okay, so we got to now inspect the search button. Okay, on this button right here, what can you do as a human? Tell me. And that's exactly what we have to do. But first thing first, we want to see up to this much is working or not. Okay, so then if we want to see that, I'm going to put something. I'm going to say sleep. I'm going to basically make it stop right here. uh, bread dot sleep. I'm gonna say it's a millisecond, right? So if I want to wait 5 seconds, I'm gonna have to say 5,000, right? 5,000, and then I gotta do this exception thing, and it's right there. Okay, so now it's gonna wait 5 seconds before it closes the browser, which is good. I'm gonna run it, and just to see if it typed Selenium WebDriver. Okay, and it'll give us 5 seconds to kind of think about it. Okay, there you go, it typed it. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do, click on search. Okay, so that, and remember, like there either, I don't know if this is a bug or not, but only the person who designed this website will be able to confirm. So in a real life situation right now, I click on Selenium WebDriver. Sorry, I wrote the Selenium WebDriver, and then from my keyboard, I click enter, and it takes me right here. Okay, and it wants to do human validation. And my wild guess here is that this is what they want. This is what the developers wanted it. Okay, to make sure that people don't abuse this. So pretty much this is by design. Let's assume this is by design, but you still want to validate this. You want to go to your product owner or business analyst and say, hey, I can basically click on search and it works. Oh, really? Selenium Maven repository, what's going on? What is going on? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. First, okay. So if you do it so many times, you have to validate this, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. So you have to click and you have to choose some stuff. What's happening here is that I'm sure many people automate Maven repository just to learn, but when you automate and you go over and over again into this website, guess who has to pay the money? Think about that way. Somebody who's serving this application, they're not just serving it for free. A server has to host this 24/7, and you are using the resources by using the application. It costs the company money. So the Maven team must have put this in place to make sure that people don't automate this and kind of cost them more money, right? Otherwise, everybody's going to automate and you be visiting the website unnecessarily. And now what's going to happen is they're paying more money for you. All right, so it says we need to look for airplane. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Next, what is this? Airplane. Okay, airplane is still airplane. Verify. Okay, good. And now we're good to go. Now, can Selenium bypass this? My question is that to you. The answer is no. Selenium cannot deal with reCAPTCHA. Okay, reCAPTCHA is for human validation. Therefore, Selenium do not have the capability just yet to kind of do this type of thing. But this is going super hard on me, you see, because we probably not supposed to even automate this. They know, right? Because people who just want to build, let's say, a proof of concept for the work, or like teaching just like me, they will keep using or abusing this site in order to automate, and therefore they have this check on place to make sure that you are the right person. You're basically a human being doing this. And oh goodness, okay, this is just insane. Okay, let's see if it allows me to do this. Yeah, okay. It doesn't even want to like acknowledge that I'm selecting the right thing. You see? Please. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and we may end up using incognito. Let me just run this real quick and see where we are. And if it does it again, shouldn't do it for the first time. Let's see. Okay, so if I do search, oh goodness, okay, I got it. All right, we shouldn't have choose this website, to be honest, for automation, because you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So you're a first time guy, you're coming to Selenium, Maven repository, getting the Selenium, and then you are automating this, costing the company money. Okay, so same, likewise, you go to Facebook and you automate that, costing Facebook money, because you're going again and again using the resources. You're using the server Every time these things displays is coming from a server, right? The server has to work hard to give you this information on your browser. Now, when server is doing that, is basically using electricity, and then the majority of the servers out there is being hosted somewhere. It has to be maintained. So there is a maintenance fee, there is electricity fee, and there is fees for the company who is providing those servers. Okay, so there is a lot of money that is involved. So simply, this is something that we shouldn't automate, but we pretty much learned the hard way just now. If you go here without Selenium, right, and we do search, and it will probably work, right, because it knows who we are. Right, see, it's coming. It knows who we are, but when we go through Selenium, it also recognizes Selenium. Wait a minute, somebody's using Selenium for this, you know. But we can probably change the browser capability to incognito, and then we'll be fine. But for today's lesson, you know, it's already 2:20. If we already did a validation to make sure we're in the right page, okay, and then we wrote the search, okay, and we're waiting 5 seconds just to make sure that we can see the right thing. What I want people to do moving forward, I'm going to make this more clear, okay. Remember, you are a QA engineer. You're supposed to be a tech savvy person who knows technology, okay? So simply recording from your phone is something that I would say very low tech, okay? You can't really, you don't want to like run it on your computer just like this, right? You're running it and then you're recording it from your phone. I don't want that. And why do I not want something like this is because number one reason is that if at work your developer saying, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, can you send me a screen video? Are you gonna send him a phone capture video, like from your own personal phone? You shouldn't do that. You should be able to use to capture the screen through multiple ways. For Windows users, you guys can download free tools that are out there. For Mac, you can use QuickTime Player, okay? If you use QuickTime Player, all you have to do, right click, okay? Cancel that. Okay, right click on this and you can just say screen recording. You can do screen recording, and now you have to select the area, okay? You can just select this area, and then basically this is it. And you just go ahead and run it, and it's gonna start recording, right? So this is what I want from you guys, right? Not from a phone, because we want to, everything that we are doing here is just to prepare for the future. When you start working, you will be able to use the best practices. So learn something's on the way. People that are joining from the phone for this class, I would say start using your computer. Everything we're going to be doing it on a machine, on the computer. From your phone, you're not going to learn it, and that's guaranteed. And the other thing is that coding wise, because we spend a lot of time with a lot of people over the last 10 years, right? And specifically on the teaching side, I can tell you this much and assure you this much, that nobody can pour coding knowledge on your brain directly. If you do not practice, then you do not know how to code, period. That's the thing. If you did not struggle with the code, then you did not learn anything. If you did not make a mistake with the code, then you did not learn anything. And that's coming from somebody who pretty much went through this over and over and over again with group of 20, with group of 30, and seeing how many people actually make it out there to get a job. And last time we did show you guys about our the channel that we use for interviews. And this week somebody got a job also, and I'll probably show you guys at the end, not part of this recording, but it is pretty much essential for you to kind of learn at least the basic, be able to write some basic tests, because when you join a company, you're going to be going to complex. So if you don't know the basic, then you're going to be quitting the job on your 3rd, 4th, or 5th day. Okay. And that's also a guarantee. Otherwise, you're going to lose your sleep at night. It's not about the money. Trust me, you will not care about the money at that point, because you're going nuts. You're going crazy. The complexity and everything that you're adding. All right. With that said, you guys, what I need from you guys right now is that have your IntelliJ set up, have your JDK set up, And after that, I want you, at least if you can make it up to the point 21, where you're validating that you're on the right page, you know, and it can be Maven or it can be something else, another website. I will be fine or happy for the next class. For the next class, I'll be happy if you can get up to 21, to line number 21, and that's it. And this is a homework, and this will be counted. Shantavai will do the recording on his end. Every time you post something, we go over through our it's like a matrix. Think about this way. We pretty much log the items that you're providing back to us. Like, okay, hey, I did this, it's gonna be there. And when you come back to us one day and say, hey, look, I'm ready, we're gonna check those, and we're gonna say, look, you're missing this homework and you're missing this project, and you have to do it. So it's better you just do it now. You're gonna be on time of everything. Okay, this is a pretty strict rule. We don't want people to go into market out there without doing homeworks or the projects. And like I said, anybody is here, trust me, if you come to me privately and say, I would like to be in the market, the first thing I'm going to say, okay, what does Shantavai is saying? Like, is he saying yes? Only then I'm going to say, okay, fine. And that is my rule, because in the past, I did get burned by not selecting people based on his recommendation, right? Some people weren't ready, and then pretty much we had to work super hard to just get them ready on the fly, right? So we're not going to do that. All right, with that said, everybody understand what I need you guys to do for next class? Okay, so if you're silent, that means yes. Okay. All right, cool. So everybody understands, you know, at least get up to this much. We're going to go more and more complex. We're going to build this framework. This is a simple framework. We're going to build this framework to be more and more complex. At some point, we're going to push our code to GitHub. We're going to build our profile and everything in GitHub, so that way you can show off your code. If somebody asks, like recruiter asks or something, you can give them a link and they will see your code and everything. So just remember, this framework is the lightest framework you will see. After that, we're going to add more. We're going to add more and more and more, and it will be it will be complex. All right, is there any question before we end? Okay, so everybody understands homework. I'm going to stop the recording.